Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the range. Tom here, and today we're doing this 1962 Chevrolet Corvette. I've always been a Corvette fan, not as big as the Charger or the Camaros that I am. But, I had this one just sitting around, and I wanted to kind of see what I could do with it. I already changed out the wheels, mocked up the wheels and everything, just to give it that little go-ahead. So why don't we head and get started? You know, when I was drilling out the post for this thing, I accidentally kind of drilled all the way through the casting. So if you noticed a little hole in the top where the trunk lid would be, that's what that was from. If you guys have ever done this, you guys know what the pain in the butt it is when you accidentally drill through the entire thing. But I went ahead and, already figured out what I was going to do with it, hopefully by this time around. But I knew I was going to either cover it somehow. I just didn't know exactly how. I knew I wanted to have a big old engine sticking out of the hood. So that's why you see my little battery-operated drill here. God, I got this thing on Amazon, and it's been a big help, especially, better than using my large drill. It's been very helpful, so I haven't had to really worry about a lot of stuff. I've been using the same size bit when I do the holes for when I cut them out with my jeweler saw. It was pretty easy to work with. It actually, the battery lasts quite a long time if it's not in constant use. So when it's kind of used here and there and then put away for a little bit, it actually holds a pretty good charge. So I recommend these little battery USB charge kind of drills. I really do recommend it. It's very handy to have around, especially when you're working with like smaller spots. Already put it in the stripper. You can see the hole pretty clearly on the trunk lid. You can't really see the holes where I drilled out, but they're there, so don't worry. Been a while since I've used the jeweler saw, so I wasn't too, concerned. But I didn't do too bad. My lines aren't straight in some spots. But I was able to get it, close. Later on, I ended up filing a lot of it down, so it's not that big of a deal. But I already had it stripped, getting the hood cut open. Kind of had a couple of hoods, or a couple of engines, sorry about that. A couple of engines I got a long time ago, like over a year ago. A little oversized, I should say, and you guys know me, I like my oversized engines in my cars. Take, for example, the 62 Chevy pickup I did in my last video. Love those big oversized engines. They just look like a hot rod. But this one's not that big. The engine I made for this one, or I didn't make it, it was already 3D printed, but it was actually one of the ones I was wanting to use. I had 3 different ones, and I went ahead and chose to go with the one I'm going to be putting in here. All in all, it worked out. They were same length, so I just trying to find the one that looked the best, and I think I did. So, I followed it down throughout the video. Some of the stuff I did off camera, like I did a little bit more filing and, test fitting and stuff. This was one of the engines I was going to go with, but it just didn't look like I was wanting to, so I went with a different one. Already took some oven cleaner to the base, stripped all that chrome off so it was black. This is the engine I actually ended up going with. So I had to sand it down a little bit, and I also had to file it down a little bit more. I did a lot of stuff off camera, like I said earlier, just to make sure everything went well. Because everything I wanted to do, I knew we probably got bored. Okay, I'm tired of seeing the filing. Oh, I'm tired of seeing, the test fitting, the sanding, just kind of a little bit here and there. Just trust me, it gets old watching somebody sit there and file for a good probably 5 minutes. And I know I'm not the only one. I try to skip through that, make that go faster, and have like a little more, I should say, little explanations. And you see, the engine's going to look good. Trust me, it looks really good once it's done. And I had to do a little bit to the base, as you see here. I was going to do this, but then my front axle for the wheels that I already chose would not have fit. So I ended up going a different route. So, like you see me test fitting the axle for that's a little thicker. It's can't remember what casting these wheels came off of, but I ended up going through a bunch of my wheels, like trying to find the right set for the back, trying to find the right set for the front to match the back. And, like I said, I got so many wheels laying around, I don't know where they come from half the time. So, and you can see a little bit of dirt or fading or whatever they call that on the base. And, so it looks better blacked out, I think. So I ended up painting the base a different color black later on. But I like how the wheels look on here. The engine's looking good in here. It's just going to pretty much be a pretty cool little 62 Corvette. And I was pretty much happy with how everything lined up. It's a good, nice rolling car. It's not like if you put it on a racetrack, it's going to just fly down. No, it's kind of, you got to kind of help it along. But it rolls, so I ain't complaining. Everything functions well. Since I didn't have that front post in the front anymore after I cut the hood, I pretty much had to do something a little bit different, so I went ahead and did that. Trimming it up, so when I end up changing it into putting a flat piece of styrene, because that engine's pretty big, so it needs a nice little good little space. But all in all, I think and it helped the front axle. It did. It helped keep the front axle in, so I wasn't worried about it bobbing up and down. If it did, it drops a little bit low, so it's not like extremely dropped in the front, but it rolls. So that's the biggest thing I was concerned with, is making sure it was at least a halfway decent roller. And luckily enough, it ended up being a pretty good roller. Not to the point, like I said, I'd put it down one of those Hot Wheel tracks and let it run. No, it didn't really turn out that well. But I'm glad to be getting back into the hobby. I actually, been trying to come up with more ideas to build. For now I'm just starting with like the minor stuff before I get into like the bigger pictures, and I'm talking about like fully customizing a truck bed or making a truck ramp or something like that. I'm kind of slowly working my way back into that. Did you guys see my custom 62 Chevy tow truck? Oh man, I really love that tow truck. That turned out really nice. The 62 Corvette turned out really good. Once you see the final result of it, you're gonna be like, wow, that's pretty nice. Well, I hope you do. But anywho, everything was fitting perfect in this once I was getting it done. Cleaned it up. I took some steel wool to it and kind of cleaned it up a little bit. That was after I did a little bit of modifications, filled in the back hole for where the post went through, and luckily enough, once I got done filling it, I did the sanding off camera. But once the paint goes, like, you can't even tell there's a hole there, and that's the biggest thing I was hoping for. Is once everything got done, you couldn't even tell that I drilled through the casting itself. And I told you earlier that you was gonna see me mixing up the JB weld. I was gonna be putting it over the hole, trying to fill it in. And like I said, I did all the sanding off camera. Right now, I'm kind of in a little bit of a dilemma why I'm not putting decals on anything lately. Is because my big folder of all my decals, I'm talking about all my custom Caliber 50 Customs decals, all these American military decals that I had, all my racing decals, they just up and vanished the folder I had with them. So I have no idea where they're at. So I'm going to be needing some custom Caliber 50 Customs decals made. But the problem is, most of the guys that I get them from, I pretty much have no more contact with. I haven't had contact with them in a while because I've been on hiatus. We're in hiatus. But I'm trying to get some more decals made. I need a couple of sheets of some. I can't remember where I got my General Weed decals for the 420 decals. I can't remember who I got those from. Like I said, it's been a while, and I had a bunch of those decals. I had a bunch of marijuana decals. I had a lot more than I expected. I can't believe I didn't realize that. I got a lot more decals missing than I thought. But I decided to pre-paint the engine chrome with a spray paint chrome, because I still can't find any airbrush chrome, so I'm not even going to worry about that anymore. But I decided to do a little hand detailing on the actual engine itself, so you guys can get an idea of pretty much what the engine's going to look like. But the thing is, the casting was already painted, everything was already done, everything else. I didn't do nothing with the interior, so I ended up putting that out of the way so you all didn't see it when I was putting it together. But I was really glad with the way everything turned out on this car. I'm just glad to be back into making customs again. But eventually I gotta go back up to Hobby Lobby and get some more of the Hot Wheels cases, get some more shelving, because I'm kind of running out of room putting all my customs around. I got a spare bedroom full of just all kinds of random stuff from Hot Wheels, and you name it, it's probably in there. But it's been a while since I've hand painted a engine, so I thought I'd give it a shot again. You know, I was kind of couldn't see very well. I think well, that's right, I'm not wearing my prescription glasses, but I'm wearing glasses. But I'm not wearing my prescribed ones, but I'm gonna have to get that taken care of the first of the month. I haven't tried out my airbrushes yet. I did a thorough cleaning. I had like about 7 or 8 airbrushes, but only 2 of them were actually working. I mean, I stripped them down, cleaned them up real good and everything. But this is what we started off with. Nice little casting, bad paint job because it was setting for a while, of a 62 Corvette. You know, wheels were already chosen. You can see the hole in the back for when I drill it through. Yeah, it happens. I guarantee you I'm not the only one that's happened to. But without further ado, why don't we go ahead and check out the final results.
I'm taking it up higher. I'm taking it up higher. I'm taking it up a mountain. It's time to jump. My eyes got flickering flames. Up to the sky, make it rain. Breaking the frames, breaking the chains. Ain't nobody holding the reins. Turning it on, trigger the bomb. I got the world in my palm. Staying calm in the storm. Where I was born, I call it home. I'm hitting the hardest. I'm hitting the target. My cut is the sharpest. Seize in the moment. We got this.